Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? My name is Meredith Bond. I'm the National Court Reporters Foundation Chair-elect, and I serve as the Ask Me Anything Task Force Chair. We have a few more people that'll be joining us this evening. Before we get into the questions, I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about who we are, why we're here, what we're doing. The Ask Me Anything series. What happened to the screen? There we go. The Ask Me Anything series, it has been in existence since the spring of 2023, and we do end of the month events about 8-9 times a year to answer questions. Our primary focus is new professionals, young reporters switching from one section of our career to another, students. So we want to share knowledge, and one of the ways we're doing that is by having an Ask Me Anything hour session on a variety of topics. We have covered what's it like to attend NCRA convention, what do you do to be a freelance reporter, how can I switch to being an official reporter, and what on earth is captioning? Because I'm always perplexed about how that works as well, since I work as an official. So tonight's topic is called Ask Me Anything About Fiscal Responsibility. And I will, right at the outset, give us a little disclaimer. I'll probably repeat the disclaimer a couple of times during the hour. This is professional colleagues sharing strategies, best practices, guidelines, suggestions. This is in no way meant to substitute for the paid professional advice of accountants, CPAs, and lawyers. So if you hear something that you think might be a good strategy for you, always recommended to reach out to professionals in those fields so that you have the most accurate advice to work with for your businesses. So one of the other things I want to give you a heads up on is the Ask Me Anything series will be continuing on into next year. And we will have events in January for what's in your steno bag, February for what is NCRF anyway and what are they doing, and Ask Me Anything about Career Launcher. So part of advertising this series, the Ask Me Anything series, is of course to put a photo on social media. So if anyone would like to turn on their camera that doesn't have it on, flip your hair ahead of time, we're going to, which is a great joke for NCRF because we had a trustee who flipped her hair during the picture instead of before one day. So Rich, if you're ready for picture time, I think we're ready for picture time.
All right, sure. So, all right, 1, 2.
Thank you very much. Oops, probably talked during the second one. Like to do that early because I forget things, Anyone burning the candle at both ends right now? It is December and you have joined us at a very busy time, but also a time of the year where we're spending money on some extra stuff we don't usually spend it on. And so to have a plan, professionally helps facilitate our plan personally. You got to give me a 10-second timeout. I have a dog issue.
At this time, please take the opportunity to consider the following topic. Rhode Island is neither road nor island. Discuss. Talk amongst yourselves. Figure it out.
Okay.
Mike, you had that at the ready.
Yeah, I literally sent the dog to daycare yesterday so that he would be like all tired out for evening events, and now he's up to mischief upstairs and somebody's gonna get in trouble. Anyways, we have a fantastic group of panelists to answer our questions tonight. And so what we're gonna do is you're gonna run through who those panelists are, where they're from, what they do, what their certifications are. So I'm going to call on them one by one so that you can meet them. And we're going to start with Catherine Thomas.
Okay. My name, again, is Catherine Thomas. My pronouns are she, they. I live on the Illinois side of the St. Louis metro area. I am 100% a captioner. I do a lot of on-site captioning, academic captioning for an individual student in St. Louis. And I also do anything. I'm a general practitioner. I've got all the certs. Anything else? I mean,
You have all the certs, meaning you spent years and years and years and lots of hard-earned dollars to do all the work. And she summed it up to, hey, you got them all.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, except for the videography stuff and the instructor stuff, but yeah, that's me.
Outstanding. Thank you. Ron Cook, would you share your info, please?
Yes, hi, my name is Ron Cook, and I am a freelance reporter. I've been freelance my entire career. I did 40 years worth of depositions, and once I got the hang of that, I decided to do a little bit of court work. But I'm doing court work as a freelance reporter. We live in Seattle, Washington, but we're originally from LA. And so I moved semi back down to Los Angeles, and I do court work where they laid off all the official reporters about 15 years ago, and they use freelance reporters privately. So I work for the attorneys in a freelance nature, but I'm doing mostly all trials at this point. And I have a few certs myself. So that about wraps it up.
You guys kill me with that. Working so hard to finish my RMR, and they're just, oh yeah, we got them.
Yay.
They're awesome. Okay, so not only do we have fabulous panelists on our call and more to introduce, but some of our panelists are also NCRF trustees and Ask Me Anything task force members. So we're going to turn to the fabulous Miss Sandy Narup, who is both a panelist, an NCRF trustee, and an Ask Me Anything task force member.
Hi, I'm Sandy Narup. I've been reporting going into my 35th year starting next week. I have freelanced most of it. I was a deputy official / freelance for the first 15 of it, so did some criminal. I live in Orlando, Florida, and still love the career.
Outstanding. Thank you, Sandy. I will recognize Rich Jermosin, who is also one of our task force members and NCRF trustees. And we will go next to Eric Allen, another panelist.
Hi, good afternoon. Listen to me. Good evening, everybody. Meredith said I'm Eric Allen. I am a lifetime New Yorker. I started as a freelancer in 1988 after finishing the Satone Institute, and freelanced for 10 years right after that until 1998 when I became an official with the New York State Unified Court System. And I think it was in 1998 where I also got my RPR. In 2016, I was elected the president of the Association of Supreme Court Reporters within the city of New York, which is the union that represents all of the official court reporters working in the Supreme Court in the 5 boroughs of New York City. I'll leave it there.
Outstanding. Thank you. And our last panelist this evening is Mike Hensley.
Hi, everyone. I am a freelance deposition court reporter with an RDR certification at this time, and I practice in the Bay Area of California, which means I handle a lot of biotech, patent litigation, pharmaceuticals, all the good gnarly stuff. And I originally started my practice as a court reporter in Chicago, but I am a native Californian through and through. I'm also a past president of the California Court Reporters Association. I've served on several committees in both a member and chair capacity for NCRA. And my likes are walks on the beach, pina coladas, and a good logic puzzle.
I love it. No short of comedy for Mike. It's fantastic. So I think we have all ladies in our audience at this point. If we end tonight at 9 o'clock and you have more questions, or you wanted to ask something that hadn't been asked, you wanted more information about a topic, I'm going to ask our panelists to put their professional contact information in the chat box. So if you're looking to speak to someone after tonight, I will also put mine in there when I'm not speaking, but feel free to reach out. You know, this is a good night to make connections and to network. So take that opportunity to write down someone's contact information if you'd like to have another conversation after this evening. And I'm going to get to the questions just in this very next second, but I did want to say that I have to give a big shout out to our committee and all the hard work that they put in. because if Ask Me Anything was just up to Meredith Bond this evening, we would be talking about why Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the National Football League. However, since all the decisions are not strictly up to me, I will keep it a little more steno oriented. And what we're going to talk about tonight is Ask Me Anything about fiscal responsibility. I'm going to repeat our disclaimer just one more time. This is best practices, strategies, guidelines, advice from people that have been in the industry for a really long time. This is no substitute for professional accountant and legal advice. So please remember that as you proceed forward. If you have any, iffy question, well, I heard this, is that right for me? Ask a professional. But know that, the reason why we're suggesting these best practices and strategies is because, they've worked for people in our industry for a long time. So the first question of our night is, how do you tell your money where to go? Ron, would you like to start with the first answer to this question? How do you tell your money where to go?
I thought I was brought onto this panel for what not to do. As a young reporter, I got married and we started having kids. And so I told my money to pay for all of my kids' activities. And so it wasn't until a little bit more recently that I've been able to tell my money where to go. I'm not secure for retirement at this point. But I would say that I think the first thing that I didn't do right was put away money as a freelancer when we would get paid 100% of the job. And then, come tax time, I'd realize that having a big family, we have 6 kids. And so, my money would go there. And so come tax time, I wouldn't have the money to pay the taxes. And so I'd have to take out a loan or whatever. So my first suggestion would be definitely put maybe 30% away into even just a high yield savings account to begin with, but make sure that you're putting money away so that when tax time comes, you don't get hit with a big bill.
Thank you, Ron. I can never help myself from commenting on these answers, but I'm going to comment on these answers. My father, I was a reporter when I graduated, of all of 20 years and 3 days old when I graduated. And so when I started freelance, what happened was my father took the 30% from me. I got my first paycheck. I wrote him a check for 30% of it. And then when tax time came, he had held on to that money for me to pay my taxes with. And that's what worked. And we're going to definitely talk about how to pay quarterly taxes in a couple of minutes. But just, another strategy from when I was super young that worked. But also, part of the reason why we have answers to give you tonight is exactly what Ron said. We did something that didn't work, and we're sharing it with you so that you don't, make the same mistakes. Sandy, do you have an answer to how to tell your money where to go?
Sure.
Oh, Catherine had her hand up. Sorry.
Do you want Catherine to
Oh,
go
no,
first?
she can go first. I just had some thoughts, so.
Sandy, then Catherine.
Okay, and I was kind of in the same boat as Ron. My first year of reporting, I was clueless because I didn't pay my quarterlies. When I got a $500 paycheck, I spent it. When I got a $5,000 paycheck, I spent it. I mean, I was playing catch up at times, but I learned to take 25 to 30% out. I realized after that, being penalized and all the interest and stuff, that I learned to take that and put it into a bank account that I really didn't have access to quickly. And in years more recent, I have found credit unions pay a lot more than traditional banks for their money markets. So I have now been putting most of my tax money and everything that I want to save for special occasions into a credit union. So I feel that they pay a little bit better interest, and it's kind of in a bank that I don't deal with on the regular. So I just have to go there once a quarter and pull out what I want and pay my taxes.
Outstanding. Catherine.
And just one more time, echoing that put away, and it's 30% is about what I put away too, and it works out great. I came to that number through years of trial and error. And when it comes to telling my money what to do, the very first thing is I take that percentage out for taxes so I can always pay my quarterly. if I'm making more money in a year, well, there's more money in savings and I don't get surprised anymore. I also, because I am independent contractor and your paycheck varies, I've got a whiteboard right here behind my computer that I've got my list of the percentages I take out, because I take out taxes, I take out a little bit to give, because I think that's important. And I take out a little bit for savings and for retirement, and little bits adds up over time. And then I go through and what bills do I need to pay? And then I have what are, I go as far down as I can, and then I go to the fun stuff, putting away money for Christmas, putting away money for, furniture or travel or cat veterinary bill, and that's how I tell my money what it needs to do before I get the paycheck. As soon as I know what my paycheck is going to be, I start figuring out where things are going to go.
I love it. Visual organization. Mike Hensley, not only can you answer this question, but also fill us in a little more about what is this dreaded quarterly taxes everyone's speaking of.
Sure. So I think Catherine brought up a good point that is helpful for everyone at the point at the beginning, or if you're just clueless on what to do in general. And she talked about percentages. And to answer the question, how do I tell my money where to go? I am always a proponent of finding technological tools to help take responsibility away from your brain and your mental bandwidth so that other things can do the work for you, letting you focus on what you want to focus on. So there are great tools out there for budgeting. I've used one for about 20 years that I can recommend. If you send me an email, I'd be happy to tell you about that. Or you can do something as simple as making your own spreadsheet. Anytime I can plug spreadsheets, I'm all down. Or a whiteboard that you have. But Catherine mentioned the concept of percentages. If you're looking at a budget and you have no idea how to create it, start with percentages, because as an independent, your money changes all the time. So you can't always say, I'm going to put X amount of dollars away for this, but you can say, I'm going to set aside, 60% for bills, 30% for taxes, 10% for fun. And then whenever you get your money, whatever it may be, you apply the percentages. And that way you don't build this feeling of inadequacy with the money you earn. You feel more in control of it. And then with paying those quarterly taxes, you set that aside, you include that in your planning, and you can do something like set up a calendar reminder so you're prepared throughout the year to have that ready to go. And let me tell you, when it comes to money, the more things that you can do on the front end to be proactive, the better, because it's so much harder to chase, the wheel rolling down a hill. So know that you've got quarterly payments coming up. They are important. And if you miss them, well, then at the end of the year, you've got 4 installments worth of payments you've got to catch up for at the end of the year. And like Ron said, that can add up to a lot very quickly. So it's important to plan that out through the year and make sure that you're handling it in manageable bite-sized pieces so that it is more digestible, less of a surprise, and you will give yourself a whole lot of sanity and peace in that process.
I love that answer. Outstanding. So quarterly taxes, for anyone, we'll take it just down a definition level. If you receive a paycheck that's not from an employer, there's no withholding from that check. So, what we call gross income. Somebody paid you $5 a page for a transcript, and there's no health insurance withholding from it. There's no Social Security, no kind of taxes withheld from that. Well, how the IRS addresses that is you still have to pay your taxes on your income. And so instead of collecting it once a year with your federal and state income taxes, they can collect it quarterly. And they have set up the quarterly system for independent contractors to have us pay more frequently on a regular basis. However, a lot of people don't know that you do not have to wait for the quarterly payments. You can pay monthly, you can pay extra. And so that we had some submitted questions tonight that we're going to go over, but we actually had a submitted answer that Lance Boardman, one of our trustees, wanted me to share. So don't forget to tell everyone that if you get a paycheck and maybe it's one of your higher paychecks and you have an opportunity to set a larger percentage ahead, a larger percentage of that check aside, that you can go right in and send it in on your tax account right when you have it, instead of, oh, maybe I'm gonna spend it, or oh, maybe there's gonna be an emergency and then it's gone. You don't have to wait for the quarterly payments. If you don't want to, you can send them in ahead of time. And that's a great way to, exactly what people were saying, stay ahead of the curve instead of chasing the ball. Okay, so we also have, we're gonna talk a lot tonight about being independent contractors, about being freelance reporters. But before it gets too late in our hour, I want to introduce Eric Allen to talk about other opportunities in our industry where you're not a freelancer, where you're not an independent contractor. So maybe you get to the end of tonight and you say, oh my goodness, running a freelance business is hard. Being organized like Catherine is hard. I want to do something a little bit different. Did you know about the possibility of being an official, what it means and what it could provide for you financially? And so Eric is very uniquely situated to address those, and I'm going to let him talk about it now.
Thank you, Meredith. So what are the financial benefits of being an official court reporter? So let's ask an obvious question right off the bat. Have you ever been sick? Injured in a manner where you become incapacitated for a bit? So as an official, you have paid sick days, vacation days, days you can accrue if you have worked overtime. So being under the weather or injured, you don't lose income if you cannot work for a day or even a longer period of time. In addition to the sick leave, you accrue, like I said, vacation days. So if your spouse, your child, your grandchild has an important event that you just don't want to miss or you can't miss, you can utilize vacation time for that and not lose any income. Paid holidays. So in New York, our court system has 13 paid court holidays. So if, for example, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, Independence Day falls on a weekday, you're getting paid. Because if you're, this is not a knock against freelance, but we all know those days just really don't produce bookings, right? And if those days fall on a weekend, those holidays, you'll get either that Friday or Monday as a paid holiday, depending on what day of the weekend the holiday falls on. So again, there, no lost income. As an official, you start being paid a minimum of $90,000 just to walk through the door. The transcript income can be anywhere from 20 to 6 figures additional on top of that. Let's go to what I'm sure a lot of freelance people have to deal with, and that's health insurance. The average annual premium for family health insurance in the US is $25,500. In New York State, an official reporter pays approximately $8,400 a year for that family coverage, and it's deducted right out of your paycheck, so you're actually not having to come up with that bill, so to speak. You don't see a bill. Single employees that don't require family coverage pay about half that. Pension. To me personally, this is the most significant financial benefit of being an official reporter. A New York State pension, like most state pensions, is a defined benefit that is guaranteed to you. So if an official reporter receives, this is just some numbers that I've been working with to give that are illustrative, but if an official reporter receives their pension out 20 years from retirement, meaning they collect their pension for 20 years, say from the age of 60 to the age of 80 or 62 to 82, they will have received in pension payments over $1 million. So how many people in the current economic situations can save over $1 million? Some can, I'm sure, but I think a lot cannot. So you may say, well, if I invest properly over the course of my career, I certainly can have over $1 million with compound interest and a good advisor. But that's true. But here's the bonus on top of that. Another benefit of being a state official. there is a deferred compensation plan available through New York State, wherein you can also accrue an additional $1 million, depending on when you start, through payroll deductions, whether it be a Roth avenue or the tax deferred avenue. So you will have your pension and the deferred compensation plan waiting for you at retirement. Now, according to a top financial advisor from Ameriprise, the average American only has about $87,000 saved at retirement. Also, according to the same advisor, a person needs $1 million saved to bring in $40,000 a year of income, assuming a withdrawal rate from that retirement savings of 4%, which seems to be the number utilized in terms of yearly withdrawal from retirement savings. So the theory there is that that 4% is an average of the rate of return on the investment. So if you withdraw that 4% rate of return on investment, it will replenish itself. So why do I bring that up? It goes back to the ability to have the deferred compensation plan earn you that $1 million plus have your defined pension benefit in your checking account monthly. And that is simply because you are an official court reporter.
That is outstanding information. I did not mean in any way to invite Eric to make anyone feel bad about their choice of professions. Just to present all the options available to stenographers, because you got the pros and cons of both sides. A lot more flexible schedule sometimes in the freelance, because I work in the same court system as Eric does, just in a different part of New York State. And we are tied to that courthouse Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, whether we're on the record or not, whether we're busy or not. We are there. We're employees with the employee benefits. So there's a lot of pros and cons to weigh as far as overall life goes, but the financial aspect that we're talking about tonight, those may have been some factors you hadn't considered before. And so if we're going to continue along the discussion of how to be the most fiscally responsible freelancers we can be, keep in the back of your mind what Eric had to say, because there's openings in New York. There's a lot of openings in New York, openings in the city, openings in rural parts of the state that are just absolutely gorgeous. Come to Rochester, work with me. So we would love to have you. And if you want to ask questions about that, you can reach out to either one of us. We're going to jump down to a question about what should new reporters be doing. Ladies in our audience, I wish I had all of your details about how long you'd been reporters and heard your bio, but I'm going to assume that a couple of you maybe are newer, are younger, and so I'm going to ask Ron Cook, what should a new reporter just starting out do? Maybe it's a little similar to what you answered before, but I'm sure you've got a top trick for them.
Well, I think it's important to be as organized as possible. You want to keep a job log, and you want to keep track of the date that you took a particular deposition or a court trial or whatever proceeding that you took. If you're freelancing for various agencies, you want to make sure that you keep track of who that particular job was for, because you don't want to be submitting stuff to the wrong agency. You want to keep track of perhaps how many pages you had, whether you provided rough drafts, whether you provided real time. If you're going to be getting a per diem, I do court work, and so I negotiate a per diem with every trial that I do. And so I list down the per diem that I've got for that particular trial. And then when you get paid, you want to make sure that you record what you've been paid, and you need to keep track and make sure that you've been paid fully for that particular job, because payments may come in multiples. So you might get paid for an O&1, the original and one copy, 1 week, and then maybe the next week, even though you're working for the same agency and it's the same job, they don't pay on the copy until maybe the attorney has paid. So it might even be a couple of months later when they pay on the copy. So if you don't keep track of your jobs, and whether it's an O&2 or an O&4 or whatever, and the fact that you've received payment on some but not all of it, then you may just forget all about the fact that you haven't been fully paid. And I know that there have been a lot of times early on in my career that I'm sure I did some work for free because I wasn't real good at keeping books. So again, kind of what not to do. Just make sure that you keep good records and make sure that you reconcile the payments that you do receive and make sure that you're paid fairly and timely.
I love it. Sandy, do you have new reporters just starting off advice to give?
Yes, kind of like what Ron said. I used to have spreadsheets that, listed the job number, the date, what the case was, who ordered and everything like that. But I have evolved to, I guess I'm a paper girl. So what I do is when I send an invoice out, I have a file that is unpaid invoices that I put them in there, and they're in date order as to when I sent them out. So once they pay, I pull them and attach them to the pay statement. So that's one thing I do. And then being organized is essential. I make sure that, my pages are on track for when they're due. I keep them all in a stack, and, I have reminders that come up on my calendar that, this job's 5 days out and we need to get it done. Just stuff like that.
Organization, a running theme. I love it. So Catherine, how did you develop your financial goals?
Well, years and years ago, my husband at the time, we taught the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University, which was about that was a whole lifetime ago. And unfortunately, Dave Ramsey, like every single financial guru out there, as they get their first, their first step, advice is really good, and then they start forgetting what it's like, and they get a little more elite. So I can't say that I endorse him now, but his original baby steps were very, very good to follow. The first one, just get you a little emergency fund. Doesn't have to be huge, just a little bit. And then get out of credit card debt. I mean, I have a credit card. I pay it off every month. I like getting my points and 15 cents off of gas, but that will slow you down. And then build your emergency fund, which, and let me preface this by saying that I am doing this on easy mode because I only need to pay for me, myself, and I. I do not have family or kids. I am A-okay with that. But it is a lot simpler when you only have one household to deal with and one person and 3 cats. But anyway, build you a good emergency fund. It's really handy when you have in a year your garage door break, your garbage disposal goes on the fridge, your roof starts to leak, you have to buy a new furnace, your refrigerator gets broken, and then your dishwasher decides it's going to start half-assing the dishes now and then. So it really comes in handy, but I haven't drained it. I haven't drained the emergency fund. And then I'm also working on my own retirement fund as a DIY. And so that's some good advice to start with.
I love it. She was well prepared for that. What could possibly go wrong? Why would I need that emergency fund? Ready to go. Mike Hensley, can you answer kind of financial goals? And then I have a follow-up one about business for you.
Sure. With financial goals, I encourage you all to think big. Set no boundaries and no limits for yourself and dream. After you've had a chance to dream, then take another look at that and start to apply some reality, because you may want to own a yacht, you may want to own an island, you may want to do all sorts of crazy things. And if you really want to do it, there is a way, but both of those things happen separately. So give yourself the time to dream, come up with all of your wildest fantasies, and then after you have that list compiled, then start to pick that apart and look at, what can I really do? What do I really want? And then how do I get there? And then set a timeline for yourself of when you want to achieve that. And then look at the time between now and the time that you want to achieve your goal and divide that out. And over that amount of time, also start to make a plan of how much can I reasonably set aside each day, month, week, year in order to achieve that goal by X date. So if you sit at the start, give yourself a finish line, and then figure out the steps along the way, you can map out your own way to figure out those goals.
Outstanding. I love it. Mike, have you had the opportunity to make a decision about whether or not to be incorporated as a business?
I'm very glad you asked this question, because this has been my journey for the last several years. And frankly, it's something that really excites me about being a freelance deposition reporter. I have been incorporated for several years now, and I run as an S corporation. And let me tell you, the benefits of running as a corporation are many. Now, along with those benefits, there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And you feel very differently about the money coming in and where it goes and how it's handled, because you step into a different realm. It's no longer just, yay, money for me. Where do I put my money? Now it's starting to think of, how do I pay my professionals? How do I make sure that all of the taxes and legal filings and other obligations are taken care of? And I compare being an incorporated to playing craps in Vegas, because at a craps table, you can make a lot of money really quickly, and then you lose a lot of money really quickly, and it can feel like you're riding a roller coaster, but that's half of the thrill. And if you play the game right, you can do some really fantastic things. And then you have the fun of saying, I'm a business owner. And if you want to be an entrepreneur and feel that Shark Tank excitement in life, then you can certainly do that. And another fun thing about being incorporated is it gives you even more options to explore outside of just what you do as a court reporter. For example, with my company, I can explore other avenues related to the profession that will all monetize my endeavors in the industry. I can do public speaking and charge fees for appearances, and that goes to my company. I can teach courses. I can host events. I can do private coaching. I can sell materials. I can sell merch. All sorts of things. Really, the only limitation is your own creativity. And I highly encourage it to those of you looking for some excitement and adventure that you may not have thought of before. And yeah, it's a really great option to give you access to some really exciting things in the business world.
So my follow-up question that pops into my head for that is, did you have training for that? Did you do any business courses in college?
No, not at all. And I think this ties back to a previous answer as well that can be helpful. We talked about what can you do as a new reporter. Well, guess what, kids? I was a new reporter, and full disclosure, I've been a working court reporter for 8 years now. And in this time, I've gotten to the point where I'll be delicately honest, I work very hard. I'm incorporated. I make a high-end six-figure income, and that comes into my company. I invest that money back in my company. I invest it into professionals that help me do what I do. So I actually have a robust support team of scopists, proofreaders, administrative professionals. I often will partner with other court reporters as well, so I can retain clients and handle assignments. So there's a lot that goes into it, but guess what? I had to learn it the hard way, because that's how I learn. I like to hit the ground running and do things wrong to figure out the right way. But you can also hire professionals. And if you're new and trying to figure out what you don't know, I highly encourage you, first thing, hire someone who knows what they're doing. When you have the conversation with them, be candid and tell them, I don't know what I'm doing. I need to learn. That way they can either say, great, I'm willing to help you, or they can say, I don't want to work with you. Because my first professional that I hired, I wasn't brave enough to ask that question. And I spent probably the first 2 years confused and unsure and afraid to ask. And that turned into a lot of expense. Fortunately, I changed and found another professional, and I said, I don't know what I don't know. I need you to help me. You need to assume I know nothing. And They did, and I was able to learn vocabulary, strategy, and I was able to learn how to grow in a better, safer, more constructive way. So don't be afraid to admit that you don't know things, but also don't be afraid to go do something just because you don't know it. And I hope that wasn't a quadruple negative.
Encouragement to learn, encouragement to broaden your horizons. It made perfect sense to me. So we've heard a lot of different things tonight about how many things there are to spend money on. You know, we've got our business goals and, you know, safeguards to think of, and we have our personal things to pay for, and we have an emergency fund to pay for. And then there's these pesky associations, national, state, software. There is, you know, giving back to our profession. So I want to ask Eric Allen, what do you see as the value of spending part of these hard-earned dollars on dues? Is that good for our business? Is that good for our profession?
I think it's invaluable for, let's take an organization with as NCRA or your state association. Someone's always working behind the scenes for you to do something, and that takes time. It takes resources, right? Mostly financial resources. So in a field like ours, which is such a niche field, yeah, it's very, very worth any monies that you are asked to give. For our union that we're associated with, and I'm associated with, I'm the president of, we, you know, those dues go to legal representation. It goes to you know, the staff that's behind the scenes able to do these things for you. So, and you know, and with that comes a ton of benefits. So yes, the bottom line is, if there's an association that is asking you in your field to be a part of, so that your field can be bettered by it and you can be bettered by it, it's an absolute great way to contribute.
Outstanding, thank you. So we have some questions and answers going on in our chat box about outside professionals that aid us, things like accountants and CPAs. And I wanted to address just one little thing. Does anybody have in their area Liberty Tax, where the Statue of Liberty stands on the corner and says, do your taxes? And they can, and anyone can do your taxes. So what does it mean to hire a CPA? Ron, do you feel like you want to answer this one? I could spew it, but I should let my panelists participate.
Well, I'll just say that I'm ignorant, really ignorant on two things: taxes and insurance. So I really lean on my accountant, and I'm sure he's saved me a lot of money over the years. So I would just highly recommend that you pay somebody that knows what they're doing, rather than trying to save a few dollars here and there and trying to figure it out yourself. So that's my 2 cents.
And it's also the connection to all those certifications that Ron holds as well, because to be a certified public accountant, which is what CPA stands for, means they went above and beyond. They took the test to get certified. Catherine.
Yeah, and not only that, I put this in the chat, but for anybody watching, the CPAs, the accountants, will also keep you apprised of any tax laws that may affect you. I don't, in my everyday, start Googling tax laws near me to find out what new stuff is going on. She does that for me, and she gives me a heads up every year of what to look for, how best to plan for next year. And like Ron says, she's saved me some money over the years.
Worth their weight in gold. And you know, they've set themselves apart in their industry by being certified the same way that stenographers set themselves apart by being certified. So super important. I don't want to do the ask, but I'm going to do the ask. I think a lot of you guys are familiar tonight that it's Giving Tuesday, and the National Court Reporters Foundation is the charitable arm of NCRA. When you pay your dues, you pay them to NCRA, and the budget for NCRF is completely separate. Lately in our country, we had a lot of significant natural disasters, and so part of what NCRF funds is, after there's hurricane damage and people out of work because, there's no depositions going on because all the offices are flooded and their equipment is trashed because it all got flooded. That's just, one of the many, many things that NCRF puts money towards, in addition to student scholarships, grants, new professional grants. We take care of a lot of programs, and I'm not going to use up our hour to explain all of those to you, but you can join the Ask Me Anything in February to find out. It's just that because it's Giving Tuesday, I am going to put in the chat box how, if you're able, you could donate to NCRF. It's as simple as texting Guardians to 41444. So back to our programming. We've gotten through a lot of the questions that we had planned, and I want to hit a couple of the ones that were submitted by audience members. One of them is right up along the line of, we were just talking about certified public accountants. And so someone asked, what qualifies as a write-off? That is one of those questions that we just will not answer for you tonight. What qualifies as a write-off is a question for a paid professional. And
if I could add to that, if you think it might be a write-off, make a note of it, save your receipt, and then ask your CPA at the end of the year. I've done that several times.
Or make sure you establish a relationship with your CPA. Mine, I said this in the interview hiring conversation. I said, look, I want to text you. I have lots of questions. And so I can do that throughout the year. If I'm at a lunch, I can text my CPA and say, hey, is this a write-off? And they'll answer back in a timely manner so I can be proactive throughout the year as well. Because that's my style, because I'll forget and I'll lose the receipt because I have no shoebox.
You like people. I like to save it all at once.
My strategy when I was a new reporter, I hired the CPA that my boss used because I knew that accountant was familiar with special things for freelance court reporters. So I knew that, it was someone in my industry trusted, and he took such great care of me. I still use him today. So I was going to say, one of the other questions on the list was, does anybody have recommended products as far as organization for QuickBooks, invoices? Anybody got those top industry gadgets? Mike is jumping out of his chair. Share it with us.
So the program that if I'm able to mention specific tools and products, here we go, kids. The app that I've used for about 20 years now is called YNAB. It's You Need a Budget. And you pay a fee for it to use it, but it's a system that's very friendly. You can customize it to what you need. And it also comes along with its own community and educational system to teach you how to budget, no matter what your walk of life or situation or industry is. And I use it both personally and for my business. So it's very flexible. It's a great tool. It gives you a lot of visuals. You can use it on the internet or on your phone. Always accessible. Really helps you keep that in track. FreshBooks is a great tool if you're starting out and you're looking for a more inexpensive option to do your invoicing and budgeting. You can scale it up as you need or get the basic version that also works well with you. It's customizable. There is QuickBooks Online, but the thing with QuickBooks is there's a very steep learning curve and you can get into scary accountant land very quickly. So QuickBooks can be very intimidating. Also, the other platforms where you can accept payments, such as Square or Wave, those are systems that will have budgeting and financial planning or financial management built into them. Venmo has some tools, but not as robust as things like Square or Wave. And then search the App Store for your mobile device, whether it's iPhone or Android or what have you. There are so many other apps that can relate to this. There are mileage trackers that let you track the distance traveled so you can calculate that for the end of the year. There are micro investment tools that let you buy into the stock market at very small prices and dip your toes into that pool to learn investing. There are savings planners, there's financial planners. All you have to do is just type in the topic you're looking for and you can find a whole treasure trove of those things. And like I said earlier, if all else fails, take some free courses that you can find online through YouTube or what have you to learn how to use spreadsheets. Because if you can figure out a spreadsheet and how to build that, you can track anything that your heart desires. And let me tell you, in these decades of being alive, I have tracked some crazy things with spreadsheets, and I've been completely grateful for it.
Love it. Outstanding. Sandy, I'm headed to you next. What do you do to set up business and personal financial accounts?
Okay, so I have a personal account totally separate from my corporate account. And I pretty much have a chart of accounts. I use Quicken because QuickBooks scares me also. But Quicken is really easy to do. I have it set up so that at the end of the year, I mean, I keep my receipts, but I use a separate credit card for everything business related. If I'm, taking a client out to lunch, if I'm, paying my scopist, it comes out of that account, and I have my different chart of accounts or my ledger items. And at the end of the year, I print up a report and send it to my accountant. And pretty much that's all I have to do, because it has my income separated out. All of my professional income goes into that account. I pay my scopus out of that account. I pay for my conferences out of that account, and I keep everything totally separate. When I need money personally to pay my mortgage or, whatever expenses I have, I just take a distribution and move it over from my corporate account. I am incorporated as an S Corp also. And I highly recommend doing that. It has saved me lots of money, and I actually have my accountant do everything for me, does my quarterly filings and everything. So it's well worth the money for me. I'm too busy to deal with that, and she just sends me the forms to sign and send in, but I keep everything separate in Quicken.
Wonderful. Catherine, explain to us what Khan Academy is.
Yeah, I put in the chat that Khan Academy just added a financial literacy course, and you can find free courses on everything under the sun on Khan Academy. Science, art, and I started some of the financial literacy course just to see what it was, and it's pretty good. It starts you out, walks you through some simple things, and I haven't been all the way through it, but that's a good one to look at if you want a little more in-depth information about budgeting and taxes and credit ratings and credit and all that.
Catherine, spell that out for the people watching after the fact and who don't have access to chat.
Khan.
Outstanding. I love it.
Khan. Yeah.
So we're down to kind of our last 6 minutes, and I'm going to finish tonight with talking to each of the panelists about, what's the one tip you want to share, maybe the one thing you wish you knew, anything you have to say for a closeout tonight, something you wish someone had always told you and you wish you knew before. Eric.
Unmute. I would just say that realize that there's tomorrow financially. It comes really quick. I can't believe that in less than 4 years, I'm eligible to retire when I feel like I just got out of core reporting school. So I know everyone has said it about saving and putting away. That is the biggest thing that you really, and this is my opinion, that you need to do, because it comes, reckoning day comes awfully quick when you say, I think I've worked long enough. I think it's time. Well, your accounts will tell you whether it's time or not. So tomorrow comes quick. Start now if you haven't already.
I love it. Ron, what's your tip?
I would pretty much echo that. Just knowing right out of the gate that you need to prepare to save for taxes, and just not get deep into a hole. Stay away from credit card debt. I don't know how in the world it's legal for them to charge the interest rates that they charge. And I can say for the last several years, I've had zero credit card debt. I use a credit card and I pay it off every month, and I would strongly encourage that. There was a point at one time where I was up to, I think, 29% interest And it wasn't because I wasn't paying my bill, but I'm not sure how it got so high. It was just, it's ludicrous. How is that even legal? So anyway, I would just say that just do all that you can to stay away from credit card debt and to prepare for taxes.
And sometimes paying that credit card off at the end of the month has a lot to do with the emergency fund, because something goes wonky and you planned on paying it off at the end of the month, and then the emergency came up and you didn't. Sometimes those two go hand in hand. Catherine, your top tip.
I can't take credit for this quote. This came to me by my spiritual advisor and therapist, my hairdresser, who said that money is an excellent servant, but a horrible master. Just bringing it back to have a plan for your money and good things will happen. Most of my jobs are academic captioning. We're about to close out the semester, and I'm able to just take December and take a few jobs here and there until the semester starts again, basically hibernate, because I've been telling my money what to do, and it's been serving me well.
We were organized. Sandy, what's your top tip?
I have to echo the same with savings. And one other thing that I've recently done is with my health insurance, I can do an HSA account, which has come in handy because you know, a certain amount you could put in every year if you have a health issue, and you know that's just an extra savings account that's set aside. I had some skin cancer taken care of, and I knew that that money was there that could take care of it.
I love it. Mike Hensley.
One word, believe. And now let me back that up. No matter who you are, where you are in your career, what you have available to you, or what you want to achieve, believe it, because there's no one out there that's stopping you. The only person that's really stopping you is you. If you want to be a big baller, believe it, and it'll happen. If you want to be completely secure and absolutely responsible, believe, and you can do it. Circumstances will come your way that will challenge your beliefs, but if you believe in your core values, nothing can touch you. No difficulty, no trouble will make a problem that you can't overcome as long as you believe. So know that you can do it, and just go do it and have a blast.
I love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you, panelists. Thank you, attendees, for spending this hour with us tonight. I hope you got a couple of nuggets of useful information to take with you. I also hope that you're going to join us in the future. We have the events the last Tuesday of the month, January, February, March, April. And Jill Lansman has her hand up.
Well, I wanted to thank everybody for this successful hour. Two things. Number one, I will write a coverage story, and in that coverage story will be a link for this recording, which will be posted on YouTube in case you want to share it with your friends and family. And then I love this topic deeply, and I just wanted to tell you I thought you were all excellent. But one thing for beginners is to be aware of your credit score. You should always understand what your credit score is, understand what makes it rise and what makes it go lower. Just have credit score awareness. That's the only, I love that Catherine told you about Dave Ramsey, because I have my Excel spreadsheet from Dave Ramsey. I don't follow him now, but he has this beginning budget Excel spreadsheet, and I've been doing that for years. And I love the enthusiasm. This is a very important topic. And I hope you all get a strong handle. All the attendees get a really strong handle based on the advice you had today. You were all great.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it. Whatever kind of holiday that you celebrate, I hope that you guys have a December that is relaxing and fulfilling, and hopefully some time with family, regroup, recharge. I know I'm looking forward to that time for myself, but once again, thank you for spending a little bit of your December with us, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Good night, everyone.